I forgot to bring my makeup and everything. It's cool.
I know I did my hair for everybody.
I need ASMR levels from you, bro.
It's a little creepy.
All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in to Real Talk by OSYL. Today, we're going to continue our fourth episode in the Corona series. Basically, it's a series about how we're all going through these times that we're all collectively in. So in today's episode, we're going to answer 3 questions about basically our thoughts on professional sports reopening during these Corona times. And those 3 questions are: 1, what are our thoughts about sports coming back? 2, what's the importance of sports returning so soon during these lockdown, during COVID-19s? And 3, on the flip side, if we are pushing for sports to be reopening, what messages are we sending overall to everybody involved, to the athletes, to the politics, to our health, to the world around us? So before we jump in, we're just going to do a little introduction, go around, do a little round table and check-ins. Today, we got 2 special guests today, 2 new special guests. Welcome, Jomar. How's it going today, man?
It's going well. How are you guys doing?
It's good, man.
Good.
What's something new about today in your life?
Something new about today in my life. Let's see. Just excited for the weekend, man. It's Friday. We're ready to go. The sun's going to be great. It's Memorial Day weekend, so
I hope that's
mainly it. And then what's great also is that next week we're going to be closing on my brother's condominium. So we're excited.
There you go.
Nice.
So that's great. And then hopefully we'll be rolling through the next few deals here for real estate. So I'm really
excited. Go. Hey, for our listeners, Jomar is a legit real estate agent. Go ahead and do a little ad if you want. Free shout out.
I appreciate that, guys. So if you are listening, I am a real estate agent. I work with Better Properties in Kent. And yes, if you need some help finding your new home, let me know. If I know times might be a little tough, but I'm here for you.
State of Washington only.
State of Washington only,
yeah. Anywhere in Washington.
There you go. Hey, yeah, this is later he'll pay us for that. Thanks, Joe. And then welcome our other special guest, Gerald. How are you, man?
Good, man. How about you?
Not too bad. What's going on today in your life?
Before I did this, I went to go vacuum my car. Other than that, I mean, just like things new. I mean, like just living life and living COVID, just chilling, just playing games, just trying to catch up with everyone. So
yeah,
perfect time.
When you talk about your car, I still think about your old Jeep.
Hey, funny, super sidebar. It's actually parked in front of my house right now, and it died. So
man.
So later on, I think maybe in a month or so, super sad, it's going to be towed away. So
wow,
man.
Yeah, I think it unofficially broke the world record of having 500K miles on it.
Okay, not that much. All right.
Tyler, what's up, man? How are you?
Doing well, man. Just end of another week in staying indoors, quarantine. So just trying to stay active, trying to keep busy. Happy that it is the weekend, even though we're stuck at home. We're still look forward to the weekend, even though all of the days blend in together. But
right,
kind of nice to have a 3-day weekend coming up here, so we don't actually have to worry about any work-related stuff on Monday.
Right. For most of us, we work from home, so it's kind of like a weird feeling that's man, it's a Memorial weekend, long weekend coming up, because everything just blends in with each other. Zavon, what's up, man? How are you?
Pretty good, man. You know how it is. Same shit, different day.
There you go.
Hanging in there.
His key tagline from all the different episodes. I love it. Yeah, and Zavon's not showing himself today. Maybe you got a bad haircut today. Who knows? But overall, we're glad to have him. Today we're missing. We are missing Andrew today, so we are gonna go on without him for this 4th episode. So let's jump right into it. Thanks, guys. So first round, here we go. First question is, we've been hearing it in the news that a lot of, especially here in the U.S., a lot of cities, outside, ignoring the politics, a lot of cities here are pushing for professional sports to return. And, we're hearing in the grapevine how soon we're going to see it. We don't know yet, but we know that being in a capitalist society, people are pushing for these pro sports to come back. Zavan, what are your thoughts, man, on hearing that sports might return, especially football and baseball?
I mean, honestly, I can't really say if I'm for or against it. I'm just more of I'm just curious of what it's going to look like returning post COVID-19. Because I picture like stadiums being empty, but they're just doing their thing on the field and whatnot. Yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of weird just thinking about it. But I know it's the one thing that keeps for example, all five of us sane throughout the years, because it keeps us entertained and whatnot. So honestly, I don't really have an opinion for it. I'm just curious of what's going to happen and what's going to look like if they do move forward with broadcasting.
Right. I mean, it's weird in a way where it seems like, the small talks, it's always about weather or it's always about sports, when it comes to that. And with being in quarantine, it just feels like that has been taken away from us. It's just weird. I remember, what was it? I think back in March, maybe early April, I was watching a rerun on the ESPN app, and you guys know I'm a big fan of soccer, and so I was watching. If you guys don't know, the team Juventus, which has just signed maybe a couple years ago, probably arguably the best soccer player. I would say probably the LeBron James of soccer in the world. Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah, for you guys don't know, and they had a game on. It was just a regular season game, not a preseason or anything. But I was watching it, and sometimes I'll have it on in the background while I'm doing something else, and I realized something was signaling to me that something was off. And I paid attention, and it just felt real weird. And I realized that there was no audience in the stadium. It was when it was so for you guys don't know, the league that he's in is an Italian league, and so this was when Italy was just right at the cups of having their own quarantine. And so they had sports still going on, but they decided to prevent fans from coming to the stadium. It was trippy. It felt like it took away from having fans at a stadium. You don't realize, but even though you're watching it on TV, it took away from this energy of the game. You're watching two, and by the way, it was two big teams. Not only did you have what I consider the LeBron James of sports playing, and they were playing a rival team that was also a good team. It felt like they were just in a scrimmage or a throwaway preseason, and it wasn't. But because the lack of the energy of the fans in the stadium, it was crazy. It just blew my mind. I mean, what do you think, Jomar? Are you excited for sports coming back to watch it again? I mean, you got the Mariners jersey on. I know you're a big baseball fan.
I am a huge baseball fan. So, growing up, the Mariners were one of my first teams that I ever watched, and so I've been a big sports fan ever since. But I'm really excited for sports to come back, but I want them to come back under the appropriate circumstances, and that means safety for all the players that are on the field, and then also safety for people that might be watching in the stands. So. I'm okay. I think what's funny is that even though I'm a huge sports fan, one, public health comes first, and I think that's one of the most important pieces of this. And then secondly, I think it has to come back right circumstances and at the right time. So those are kind of I've been able to live without sports now for about 2 months. And it's cool, even though you're watching the Mariners from 2001 and how amazing that team was. But definitely I'm ready for it to come back. I remember, watching even I think it was the Patriot Act with Naj, and he was talking about the NBA returning. And he was saying that the United States right now needs Adam Silver. and I agree with him. Like, the United States needs Adam Silver, because Adam Silver has done a great job. I think he shut down the NBA, even before the entire country decided to, shut down due to quarantine. So, he's done a great job. I think, a blueprint that should be placed for every sports league, including baseball, NFL, should be, they should definitely follow Adam Silver's lead. Hopefully one day he'll be able to make the Sonics come back. But, I think he's done a great job leading the way. But, make sure that everybody's safe first, and all of that. Mm-hmm.
Thanks for that, man. It's funny you said that, because during when quarantines was actually becoming more probable, especially here in Washington, for us folks, and across the United States, we were the start of it all in Washington. And it was funny because I was watching, I think it was a Pelicans game live on TV. And that's where I got my first news that after that game was over, the NBA was considering shutting everything down. And that's when I heard news that this is actually pretty serious. Yeah. So, I'm glad you brought that up.
What's funny, though, is that even the slightest bit of sports news now, I get really hyped over. So, we just signed Carlos Hyde today. I was like, old man Hyde coming to the Seahawks. That's cool. But
I did not hear that.
Sports that I'm not even interested in. So I'm not a huge golf guy. I know that might be surprising. I'm not a huge NASCAR guy. But the other day, NASCAR was on. I was like, man, cars racing around a track? This is amazing. Wow. Other sports are starting to intrigue me. And, I'm even excited about the golf tournament that's coming up soon with Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Phil Mickelson, and Tiger. That's gonna be so. So I'm starting to become a connoisseur of other sports.
There you go.
Sports around right now.
There you go. Before we move on, though, tell me how long did you watch NASCAR for, and how did it feel? Because I heard there's no fans in the stadium.
I watched NASCAR for maybe like 20 minutes, and I was like,
that's still a lot.
This is enough for me.
So there was no audience in the stadium?
No, it wasn't. No audience in the stadium. And then I was like, man, I don't know who these people are, but I hope that blue car with the number 3 wins.
Nice.
So it was exciting. And then, getting hyped over like South Korea baseball. Who would have thought I'd be enjoying South Korean baseball?
One of the best in the world.
I'm enjoying it. So
one of the best in the world. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Gerald, tell me, man, are you excited for sports coming back?
Honestly, I'm really excited. And I was just thinking about just all the alternatives I've been resourcing to, especially I know people on Twitch and on YouTube are streaming literally NBA 2K20 simulations. And I'm just like, oh man, this is going to be all great. It's fourth quarter. I don't know why it's 20-21. Who's going to take the last shot? That's why I've been waiting. It's honestly I've been waiting for, even just before we did this podcast, I was watching this morning about the possibility about the NBA, and the NBA coming back in mid or late June, and they're kind of doing separation between the West Coast is going to be staying in Las Vegas, and then the East Coast staying in Orlando. So just even just thinking about the possibilities, and of course, kind of attesting to what what Jomar said about Adam Silver, he's doing things right, and I think everyone should kind of take the lead. I know I know President Trump pretty much brought everyone together. I hope pretty much it was a Zoom call or whatever, meeting virtually to kind of talk about, the future of sports. Because, it's been crazy that, that's why I've been playing more video games like MLB The Show, just trying to get to the Mariners to the World Series. Cross my fingers if they do. But, I've been waiting for a while.
And what? And they still don't make the playoffs in the game?
Oh no, I'm controlling the team. I'm on Novin, so we're going 162-0. So got to create a player, But yeah, it's just overall it's just crazy. Even earlier this week, I was watching old college football games. I know this is a weird combination to watch, but I was watching Portland State against Montana State. Who would have thought? And it was in 2015. So, and then I think we'll touch. I just got recently just got done watching The Last Dance. I think that came at a perfect time. I mean, granted, just recent news today, like on Friday, that Jerry Sloan pretty much passed away. And it's crazy just to see, like, I read that on my phone and just hearing, like, and just watching like what The Last Dance, like, it's just so crazy just to even like put two and two together. But yeah, I'm just ready. I mean, I don't care if we need to have like these, like at the stores they have like those plastic dividers between the customer and the cashier. If we have to do that like every other seat, like at CenturyLink or even over at T-Mobile Park, I mean, I'm down. But of course, public health, public safety is the most important. So,
well, you lead to a good point about that. Would it mean more to you or less to you that sports come back? However, for the remainder of the season or the start of the season, new season, no fans can be at the game until, I don't know, late next year or 2022. Would it mean more or less, or would it just be you'll still be happy that sports?
I mean, for me, I think just having sports in general, I'll be happy. Like, even those zero fans, I mean, or even just like big social distancing. Like, I mean, I was kind of joking around, like kind of like pre-2017 of like the San Francisco 49ers at Levi Stadium. That's practice social distancing right there. And I mean, we can have that, but even just with no fans, I mean, it seems kind of weird, but I think just having like just active like sports going on to ESPN or going to my phone and like watching sports. I mean, I think because my kind of like my daily life kind of surrounds around sports. So we talk about it maybe 24/8. So
damn, not enough time. Even still, not enough time in a day.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Cheryl. Tyler, what's up, man? Are you excited about sports returning?
Yeah, man. It's one of those things. I miss sports. Sports is one of those things, regardless of whether it's professional sports, college sports, or just youth sports. I think it's just multi-level on so many things. It's just, it's one of those things that helps provide something for youth to do, stay out of trouble and everything, but also provides entertainment once you get to a higher level of competition. So for me, I grew up with sports, so I love sports, all sports, soccer, baseball, basketball, football. Don't watch basketball as much anymore since the Sonics left, but playoffs I usually watch. I think it's just a little crazy right now with all of that. I found myself watching the Back to the Future Mariners game from 1998 the other day, just because it was on a rerun. So it's kind of weird. I want sports to come back, but under safe protocols and whatnot. And I think kind of not to jump ahead of any questions, but us being in the stands is one thing as fans, but then with folks that are actually playing the sports, like a lot of these sports are going to be contact sports to where you're like right up on one another. And I mean, like, Adam Silver with canceling the NBA season, Rudy Gobert got the virus. So I know he was joking about it. He mocked it. And then he's the first player to get in the NBA. Karma, irony, whatever that may be. But then he's like, you're around these people all the time too. So like, how would you safely do that? Because, this is obviously an airborne pathogen to where like when you're working out, you're huffing and puffing and just exerting a lot of, air and everything too. So you're breathing a lot quicker, rapid, all of that stuff. So even when I go outside and run, like if there's someone on the sidewalk that's running, I veer out like super far out of the way just so like I don't like not necessarily catch anything from them, but because I'm running and panting, I don't want to potentially throw something at that person either, just kind of protecting both people. So sports coming back, I'm excited about. Just we don't know when it's going to come back. I know there's talks about this year and everything, kind of what these guys have mentioned already. But California, for instance, already said, last month that no large event, sports, concert, anything would be held in the state of California until 2021.
Right.
So we know that sports will not be played in California or anything of that nature until at least 2021. So it's, I don't know, it's kind of crazy. Like, we don't want to rush it back just because of the virus. I miss it, but I don't think we should rush it back. Just because, the thing that pops into my head was like from 2015, when I think it was the Orioles and the Chicago White Sox, when they played in a completely empty stadium. I'm drawing a blank on why they were doing that. It was the protest, right?
Can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact reason why they were playing in an empty stadium, but they played in an empty stadium, and even the players were like, it was really weird. Like, at the end of the day, it's a game, but you're also there playing the game and providing some sort of entertainment, and you also draw like that energy from crowds. So even if we did say like, oh, sports can come back, but no crowds, it's just the energy that those players get at that point is like, are we playing for something still? Like, are we practicing because this feels like a practice? That kind of stuff. So
just like that, just like that soccer game I saw.
Yeah, I know, and I know a lot of, like, I think it started in a German soccer stadium where they were saying that folks could buy like a cardboard cutout of themselves for like $20, and then the money they paid would actually go to like a COVID relief fund. So it started in Germany, and I know like even in the Korean baseball league, they've started doing that too, where they actually just put people who have paid for these cardboard cutouts of themselves, they just tape or tie, or I don't know how they do it, zip ties maybe, but they put cardboard cutouts of people in the stands, so it looks like there's people there, which I think is awesome and it's cool, but same feeling, not so much,
Yeah, right. It reminds me of that. Did you hear about that? I think it was a Korean baseball league or something like that got in trouble for blowing up dolls.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they're like, let's actually print people that are real, not blow up dolls.
Not blow up dolls.
Yeah, and what I hear the most, Tyler, is and this goes back to you too, Gerald. You brought up a great point about The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary on ESPN. For me, I'm 3 episodes away before I finish, so no spoilers. But for me, though, I truly believe like it was probably one of the best, documentaries, even if you don't care about basketball. I mean, it really brought like a feeling. Tyler, you mentioned about feelings and all that stuff. And so this segues into our next question. Basically, what is the importance of sports, and what is the importance of it returning so soon, potentially so soon, during these really strange and unknown times we had? And I think you, and Tyler, I want to kind of start with you one more time, because I know sports was a big part of your life, especially as growing up as a kid. And then you saw it as a coach when you coach other kids as well, about kind of the importance of sports have on kids and their confidence, or kids and their discipline, and just their outlook on life. So starting with you, Tyler, what do you think is the importance of sports returning, maybe even sooner than what we may believe, on the impact it might have on everyone?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the biggest thing with sports for me, because I grew up in it and because I was a coach, is just the development of just younger students or athletes, especially in rural areas and urban areas and everything, which is kind of what I went through growing up. Like, a lot of people, either were involved in gangs or just like sketchy stuff, or they played sports. Sports oftentimes took the people from doing stupid things and put them and had them focus on other things. So I think for that, it's a huge development thing, not only just keeping them safe, but like you kind of mentioned too, is just building that confidence and letting them do that, but also like, learning in the process. there's discipline there and everything. You can't just get super heated, all of that stuff. Unless you're playing golf, you're playing a team sport. So you're building, camaraderie and just respect for other players. Not everyone's on the same level, but at that point you are learning from one another and how to better yourself and a team. So it's just kind of like life lessons. It keeps you busy. You can kind of coach how you want. Again, kids, sponges, they soak up everything. So it's one of those things, you don't want to be too harsh on them as a coach. You want to be somewhat harsh, somewhat constructive to the criticism that you give them. You have to remember that these are children. So some children get yelled at all the time at home, and you don't necessarily want to yell at them on the football field or the baseball field or whatever. That's probably their little escape too, But I would say the importance of youth sports in general is just to get kids out and have them active, not have them. I say this because I did both, but not have them just rot on a phone or an iPad or video games. Don't get me wrong, I played video games a ton growing up, but I also played sports. So it was the fine balance between the two. But you don't want them to just sit around and do nothing and not be active and all of that. And then two, just being around other people too when you're young, I don't know, that one's a little challenging just depending on how you look at it. But I think building the relationship and bonds with people over sports as you go through them can help one another, just gain that appreciation for other people and then for the sport itself. So it doesn't matter what sport it is. And that goes all the way up until, college and then the professional sports and everything too. The importance there is just it's a little bit of a getaway. You know what I'm saying? So after you've played sports and everything and you've reached the pinnacle of your career, whatever that may be, whether that was middle school or football or high school football, or you went to college and played college ball, or you made it to the professionals, even at the professional level, they enjoy watching sports, and they still learn. There's always something to learn in the game, or
right.
But I think it's important to a lot of people, not only because it's a sense of entertainment, but it's a chance to build camaraderie amongst people that have common interests and common, just knowledge of the sport as well. And that's the thing. It's you could have two completely different people, just this person grew up this way and this person grew up that way, but you bring them together, watch the Seahawks or something, and you're I respect this man kind of thing. It's just
right.
It's just a common thing that they just, you love and you can talk about, and you just have that relationship with one another. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I miss with sports, is that not just watching for entertainment purposes, but for the sense of I can talk to somebody about this, we're all watching the Seahawks or something, or the Mariners, and we have a group message and we just say what the heck was he thinking? Just we can get upset, we can do whatever. But it's just one of those things, just the relationship, not only with the sport, but with the other people that are watching as well.
Thanks, man. I mean, and Gerald, I want to bring this up because I want to piggyback off Tyler. And so I want to hear, some people may even go as far as calling athletes role models or heroes. Piggybacking off what Tyler was saying, I kind of want to hear your thoughts before we get to hear what you think is important. I kind of want to hear, do you think that with COVID-19, coronavirus lockdowns and everything, quarantining here, do you feel like there's this lack of inspiration in the world now that sports is kind of not prevalent in our lives right now?
Yeah, I'd say definitely. Yeah, I would say, especially, I mean, I would say exercising and sports go together, but it's just it's especially when we're staying inside and just being in that quarantine life. I mean, even for me, just the lack of doing exercising, I mean, just just everything makes me lazy and stuff like that, because most of people have that routine. And then just kind of like with the role models of like just like seeing the LeBron James, seeing the Tiger Woods, also seeing, almost said Ichiro because, well, he's working right now, but just like those kind of like just kind of those role models and stuff. I mean, I think that's what they need, like to see that person, like especially like kind of the tidbit I like kind of heard from if you guys watch Uninterrupted, it's like a podcast led by LeBron James. It's kind of like seeing, like for LeBron James, kind of seeing like his role model. The only person I can think of is like he's on TV. You only think like he's just a character on TV, and like I think it's like it's not saying it's hurting our youth, but it's kind of like for us. I mean, I'll speak for myself. Like I mean, like sports has really revolved around like my life, and it's just like for a kid, just like seeing that, you know, like they kind of see they're missing like LeBron James playing, or seeing like different like their favorite players playing. It's just kind of like I might lose their confidence, because even for me, like my role model was like Ichiro growing up. I want to do all the things that he wants to do, like just all like even the stretches, like I mean in the outfield, like I kind of like mimicked, and it's just like I think like kind of the lack of that right now is just like, you know, does it? I mean, like I don't know, that it's really it's really, I mean, like I would say for me, like it's really I mean, it's the importance of sports is like maybe kind of hurting like, you know, youth like that are watching, you know.
Right. What's important about it to you that it's returning, you know, especially in these months of uncertainty?
I mean, besides talking about work, I mean, this is something else I talk about. It's like the sports. Right. I mean, it goes work and then sports. I mean, like it goes hand in hand. I mean, they're 50-50. I mean, well, they're 50-50, but I think just the importance, like I think like what Tyler was mentioning, like it does, like he hit the, like, you know, the nail on the head. Is like, you know, it's really important. Like it's just not only just talking about like professional sports, but also talking about like youth sports as well. I mean, like it's kind of that getaway. I mean, like especially with, I know back at the downtown YMCA, they did like late night, and that was like their escape. That was like their kind of like their oasis away from getting like off the streets. I mean, like I know like back in the '90s, of course, you know, like Hilltop was bad and stuff like that. But I mean, that was kind of like the gateway for them to like a brighter path. I mean, you see even like Isaiah Thomas, like he went through late night, and like I mean, look at him now. So. But I think like just the importance, I mean, just like kind of like keeping the sanity just for myself. I mean, that's why I've been like watching more like stuff on ESPN, and good thing they're coming out with like 30 on 30, like 30 for 30 things, like just keep my mind occupied. But I think overall, I mean, just like, I think just what comes, especially for us all together, is like, you know, we talk about a common thing rather than just like what stresses out from like 9 to 5. We talk about sports. Even though, like, I mean, Steven, you're a big like soccer fan. Like, I learned from you, like, hearing like about these Italian players. And I was like, I don't know who you're talking about, bro, but okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the Sounders, but I mean, like, I rarely know who's on the squad. But just here, I mean, it's kind of like another connectivity, just especially with our friend group too. Just talk about the Mariners, how, you know, we're like on a 20+ year drought or 18+ year drought, you know. Weird flex, but we just talk. I mean, it's all sanity for me.
Mm-hmm. Jomar, what's important about sports returning, or what do you think is important about sports returning?
I think coming from my background and how I think about things, I really like sports because it is a community builder. And I think Tyler did a great job of talking about youth sports and how, you know, that connects us, and also just in general about how, you know, we were able to connect with people, right? Regardless of, you know, political affiliation, whether they believe in a God or if they believe in something else, we all live in this place, right? And so a lot of us are fans of the same sports teams, and we can agree that on a lot of things. And so sports is a way that I think is a great unifier, especially in today's day and age where a lot of us are divided so politically, and where there's a lot of hurt and anger in the world today. I think sports is a great rallying point for people. And I think that's something that is really missing right now. Remember, I think it was maybe after 9/11, the whole city of New York, even the country, the nation, was donning a New York Yankees hat, even though they lost in the World Series that year. But that's beside the point. But all of us supported that community. After Houston, not going to even talk about the whole garbage can thing, but Houston, got hit with the hurricanes. They were, a lot of people rallied behind that. Boston, Boston strong, Houston strong. Sports was a rallying point, and so I think being able to have that outlet, have that sense of community, even virtually. I mean, virtually it's still there, but we need that, and I think sports can definitely provide that for people. So I mean, whenever I you see a guy wearing a Sonics jersey and you're in a different spot, you can identify with that because you're like, oh, he's probably from Seattle, and he hurts like I hurt when the Sonics play. So there's that sense of community that you get with sports, regardless of what we believe in.
Right, and that's so crazy how you brought up an amazing point that sports at the core of it is basically, you have these uber athletic folks who can do very competitive athletic things. We're just watching people run around, kick or throw or catch something. But overall, this is the beauty of why we do these talks, is because not just one individual people, but collectively as a team, they tell a story. They tell a story about how hard they train, how hard they have sleepless nights to wake up to work their ass off to make it to a championship game. It's like these little nuggets of stories that these athletes are putting together, and it almost becomes movie-like. And you're right, it's one of these things that outside of politics, religion, anything else, there's this unity that it brings together. It's crazy. It's even for those who are just kind of what's that term, that they just kind of watch sports, fair weather fans, just watch sports at Super Bowl, or everyone else is throwing a party for it. They still come together because there's still a story that brings them together. Whether it's the memory of, I enjoy a Super Bowl as a holiday because it brings all my family together that I don't see every year unless it's during Christmas or Thanksgiving. Sports has this way of uniting people, and it's crazy. It really is. And I think it's one of those things where, for me personally, I think that is the biggest importance, because right now we get bombarded with so many negative news in the media about so many different things. Especially in this day and age of technology, where you can't close your eyes without, your phone beeping at you that something bad happened, right? Mm-hmm. But sports and the lack thereof, we kind of lose a little, especially during these times. I feel like we lose that sense of unity or something that can bring us together, even if it's just like water cooler talk, like Gerald brought up, with his coworkers at work, besides talking about work, sometimes you could just slip in that conversation of sports, and everyone just relaxes and just have a good time talking about, the new Seahawks pickup, or did you see that crazy or idiotic move that they did on the field? And I think that is the beauty of it. But this leads us to our next point, though. I think, as fans, we are so passionate about it. We are inspired by the many athletes who put quite literally their bodies on the line to perform and put on a good show for us that makes us feel good or feel sad. Probably Santa Barbara fans, right? Last year's Super Bowl. But for me, though, on the flip side, what message are we putting out there into the world, like karma? Like, what are we putting out there, especially these athletes? I think, Tyler, you brought up a great point earlier where you're like, you know, the 2015 Orioles and what was the other team that you mentioned that they played the baseball game in an empty stadium?
The White Sox.
Yeah, it's like, what are we even playing for? Like, you know, these athletes are out there. So I want to start with this point, and Jomar, I'll start with you again. But I wanted to start with this point for us to consider. Now, there's no, I didn't do my research. There's not a lot of facts on this, but I hear bits and pieces in the news that athletes are getting pay cuts or suffering from their pay from you know, being a pro athlete. So this is their job too. We gotta remember that, you know. And so importance for them, a message that we're sending to them is that, okay, I get my job back. You know, for a lot of the athletes who aren't uber athletes like, you know, LeBron James, Leo Messi's of the world, or sorry, I don't know too many baseball players, whatever, but, or, you know, or Russell Wilson, whatever, like they still get paid from their ads, their sponsorships, you know, and and for us who dives deep into paying attention to sports, we know that as an athlete, you actually don't get paid. Okay, now we're talking about relative pay to celebrities and athletes. You actually don't get paid that much from your job. It's from your sponsorships is where you make your big millions, right? Mm-hmm. So for the rest of the average athletes, this is their welcoming to get back to work, you know, but still, they're still humans. So Jomar, I mean, on the flip side, I mean, what do you think? This is all speculative, but what do you think an athlete might be thinking about these big business, these capitalists, lobbyists, or people who are forcing them to come open up sports again because it's a moneymaker? I mean, what are your thoughts on what are we telling these people, these athletes?
I mean, I think, you know, I'm not an athlete by any means. And I mean, the closest thing I'm an athlete in is in the gym. And that's when I want to lose some weight. But, you know, looking at reopening and what we're saying to these athletes, you know, I wish I had an answer, but I don't know. I mean, like, I know that we are definitely putting them at risk. And I think, and I get that the notion, especially around the country, is that, man, we really want to get back to normal. We really want to get back to normal. But if that normal is at risk for them, it shouldn't happen, right? Because their livelihood comes from their body, right? So, I mean, keeping your body in tip-top condition and, you know, looking at what's happened to people that have had difficult times with coronavirus, is that they aren't the same. Some people just don't come back the same. You know, their lungs get hurt. I mean, and I get that there's a lot of money involved in these decisions, but you know, we need to put people first, I think, in terms of, you know, their health and
yeah,
all that.
Right.
So, I mean, as much as we should try to get back to normal, I think, you know, what needs to be put in place are proper protocols if we want to go back to normal, right? So, I mean, it comes back to testing, and being able to test athletes, you know, before they go back on the field. You know, not putting them at risk in terms of, you know, what they could or might come down with. So being able to do that, being able to put in contact tracing with those athletes too, and seeing where they go. And so, you know, just like what we're trying to do in terms of reopening businesses, that needs to be implemented for these athletes as well. And they need to be tested regularly. I mean, with everything that's going on, if we want to return these sports back, we want players to get back on the field. So, I mean, I agree. You know, I could see, I see it like with, I remember Blake Snell the other day. I think he voiced his opinion on, you know, his check getting cut and, you know, him being at risk to get on the field. And I agree with him. I'm like, dude, if you are going to put your body at risk, And this isn't just, I'm gonna hurt my leg risk, or I'm gonna throw out my arm risk. This is like my internal functions risk. Mm-hmm. We got to be smart about how we do that. Especially as much as I'm hungry for a Mariners loss. I really want them to be safe, and I want them to be able to keep playing past 2021, obviously.
Right. And if you don't mind me asking, you brought up a great point earlier too in the beginning of this episode about, with sports returning, are you excited about it now? And you're like, well, you are, being a big sports fan all your life, but you value public health over that. And then in addition to that, you brought up another great point that sports is like a business. And there's a lot of businesses across the United States, probably across the world, excuse my ignorance on that, but they're wanting to reopen because that's their livelihood as well. Mm-hmm. So for you, though, what message do you think in terms of politics, in terms of society, are we throwing out there that we're pushing for sports to reopen? Because, there's people out there, and I say people loosely, that think that this virus is still not a big deal, and it could be credited to the with the saturated information that we get bombarded with, that we don't know what's facts or lies anymore. But do you think that in terms of a capitalist society, this is kind of our way of telling people, yeah, this is really not that serious. Let's get everything opened up again. You brought up that point. What do you think about that?
About reopening in general?
Yeah. Like, do you think sports is like the last stamp to basically get other businesses to reopen? Like those small mom and pop shops, they're struggling to open. But then if we see that sports are reopening, do you think that's a good catalyst for them to be like, yeah, if sports can reopen, why can't everybody else reopen?
Yeah, I mean, I think if sports are able to reopen underneath the right circumstances, and obviously, yeah, I think America can definitely reopen. And I agree, but I don't think the United States at this point, we're talking May 22nd, 2020, I don't think that they're ready yet. And we can definitely, I think overall we can do a better job. And this is talking about, government side. Obviously, we all can do a better job. But I think, if we get sports back, it does send a message out to the world that, hey, America's back. But we also have lost over 100,000 people. So we need to be able to open this up and be under the right circumstances to reopen.
Thanks, Gerald. What do you think? What do you think if we push for sports to reopen? What message are we sending out there into the world?
That's a tough question, but
it is.
It's just like thinking. I mean, I wholly agree with with Jomar and everything. I think just the health aspect of it is very important, and I think because people look at our nation as kind of like the big brother, or kind of like the role model for like smaller countries. I mean, I don't want to talk about politics, but I mean like just the people of the. But I think just like if sports was to reopen, I would say in the next couple of weeks, like even towards mid-June. Personally, I think we're not ready at this point. Just because like I think the main factor of everything to be like, oh, maybe we should be open, like, or even just like for sports or even for businesses to be open. I think right now is just that currently today we don't have a vaccine for this. Mm-hmm. Like props to Governor Inslee. I mean, like everything's followed through science and just by research just as of right now. Is of course with the stay at home thing. Like the only thing with our quote unquote vaccine right now is we're just staying at home and like not communicating with others. And I think especially too, like, just side topic, like it's just crazy to see casinos open right now. But just alluding to that, it's just like I think when it comes to if they were open, it's just taking that precautionary steps on not only the players being healthy, but also the fans being healthy. I mean, like I've seen or heard about like, like gyms, like, their protocols if they're going to be open. I think like phase 2 or phase 3, I'm not sure, but just even like doing like that quick, like, that gun thermometer, like to their head to see if they're okay. I mean, I think it's just like, it's also the discipline with people too, like players and people. It's kind of like the steps, like, one, have you been sick in the past like week or two? Are you developing a cough? It's kind of like that survey. I mean, just even for work for me, like even just to go to my own office, like I have to fill out a survey, and I have to take my temperature and everything like that just to solidify, like I'm okay, I'm good. And I think that's kind of the steps that needs to be taken just to be, if sports wants to reopen. I mean, with my past experience working with the chamber, is like, businesses are hurting. Like you said, the mom and pop shops are hurting, especially during this time. But like, when it comes to sports too, I mean, sports is a business, and I know like I see the motivation, the push for like general managers, owners, and everyone in different leagues, like comes even for hockey and like baseball, basketball, and everything trying to be open again, just because they're losing money. Like I think I saw an article. I mean, I can correct me if I'm wrong, but like it goes down even just for MLB. Like it shows like the Yankees are losing a lot of money. They're like the top one who's losing money. I think it goes to Boston Red Sox. And sure enough, even though we are like with our playoff drought, I think we're like in the top 5. I think we're like 3 or 4, I believe.
Yeah.
On like losing cuts and everything like that. and I get like, the players are like, like they're mad and stuff like that with like, with the pay cuts, because I'll be mad too if I got a pay cut and they're telling me to go out of the field. Like, I mean, it's pretty much like a life or death situation. Like, I mean, of like just being healthy out there,
Yeah.
I mean, one person can like mess up the whole thing. I mean, like it's kind of like when we go back to the Ruby Gobert thing. It's like, he joked around saying, "Oh, coronavirus dying and thing." And the next you know it, I mean, Donovan Mitchell just pretty much like virtually slapped him in the face. Like, bro, no, don't even. But sidetrack. But yeah, I think just the I agree with the message about, like, I mean, with all our sports, especially with the NBA and the MLB, like it's international. Everyone around the country, like everyone in the world watches us. Like I know the Philippines especially watches like NBA. Like it's like church on going on like Sunday church day.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good message that, like it shows like everything is okay. But of course, just as of right now, I think that with with no vaccine, anything like that, just keep every player safe. I mean, like I think even though, like I said, like I'm excited for sports to come back, like 2021, I was like, I mean, that could be the goal for like all sports. Right. I mean, if that misses the Super Bowl, well, crap.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting thing too. And before I bounce to Tyler, Gerald, I want to hear you a good take from you on this. So, because you brought up a few points previously, early in the episode, you talked about, when going to the stadium, you don't care if there's shields and everything that goes up everywhere. And now connecting that back to sports being a business, and then there's real other business like mom and pop shops, stores, restaurants that are opening up, and casinos, because I know I have family members who work at casinos, and I know that they're opening up. Who knows what they're thinking, but they are making it strict where they're putting panels like between slot machines and between different machines for people, right? Yeah. So you have these kind of these stores in effect that are trying to physically make it seem like they're protecting the public, right? You have to wear a mask to get in. You got this thing. Now, with sports being a business, let's go to basketball. And I know basketball will probably be the last to open up. Yeah. But these guys are going to work every day, and they're going to work to play each other. How are they going to protect each other? And this will lead to Tyler later, because Tyler brought up a great point about that too. But I mean, how? What do you imagine? Like everyone only shoots threes. Everyone plays zone defense. It's like, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Steph Curry would win, man.
Hey, the Warriors, they might win it, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's honestly like, I mean, yeah, with like, I mean, the slight ignorance in me is just like, yeah, if there's shields around me, go ahead. But I mean, like, it's not realistic for like, let's say LeBron James or like, I don't know, like Steph Curry, like wearing like a hazmat suit or just having like a shield protector in front of their face. I mean, like,
Right.
it's just. That's why, I mean, like, in the beginning of the episode, I was like, you know what? Let everyone open. Let's do this. But, like, just hearing about, now it's like, realizing the public health, of course, that's really important. I mean,
Right.
and I mean, like, I don't want to be, like, I want to be a player and, like, I'm going down the post. I don't want to be backed up by a person who would probably have corona.
Yeah.
I mean, it's at a risk. I mean, with that sweat on sweat contact, I mean, nobody wants that, but.
Right.
But I think, it's hard. I mean, like, as a fan, of course, we all have that urge. It's like, you know what? They're not doing it. It's because, like, thinking about it, it's like, we're not going to be affected. They're going to be effective.
Right. And we forget that because they're like these, they're almost celebrities. I mean, they are celebrities and they're like superstars. We forget that they're humans too,
Yeah.
We forget that, they got Magic Johnson money. They can cure coronavirus, just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, like people used to talk about AIDS when it was, doing its thing. And then, and then they see Magic Johnson. And they're like, oh, you have money. You're fine. Yeah. But that's not the point. They're still humans. It's like, how are they going to guard us? I mean, Tyler, let me pass it on to you. Like, what message are we sending to these athletes that we're forcing them to play, with no vaccine even being present yet?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like propaganda, and you're just pushing it,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy because you have to think too, like, how much are these athletes also taking it to heart, what people are saying too? Because like a lot of people talk trash to people every day, whether that be video games or sports, like, oh, like, you're an athlete, you can't voice your opinion, you get paid to do this, you just shut up and play the game, and da-da-da-da-da. And like, dude, that guy's a person too. Like, if I showed up to your work and said, Jim, fix the copier, what are you doing? Just like, your job. It's just stuff like that. It's just like, how would you handle the criticism there? But I think it's one of those things, like, we have to realize, like, yes, they are not superhumans. They are humans. They can get sick just like all of us. I think when Gobert got it, everyone's like, oh crap, it's real. It's a real thing, and that's what a lot of people kind of viewed it as too. And I was reading this article just the other day, like, this guy and his wife were like saying, coronavirus is a fake virus. The COVID-19 is fake. It's not real. And then they both got it. And then, his wife is in like on a respirator. I don't think she's going to make it based off of what the article was saying. And he was like, just listen to everybody in the news and da-da-da-da-da. Like, I was wrong. Don't be me. And, like that. And some people got, just like I said, humans, they're toxic too, just throwing messages at them like, you should die because you didn't believe in it. And like, oh, okay, You're still a person. Come on.
Yeah. Right.
But to the point, like, you kind of have to see it both ways too. Like, yeah, we want sports, but here's the thing. Like, I want sports back. But if you told me, like, a person who has season tickets to sports, like, oh, sports is coming back, I'm like, that's great. I'm happy, but I'm not going to the stadium. I don't want to go to the stadium because there are other people there that could spread that stuff, and I don't want to be around it. So even if sports come back, like, I don't even think I would want to go into a stadium, in this year. Like, I say that in all seriousness, like, I obviously want to go, but safety precautions, I'm like, I don't know if it's a smart idea for me to go. There are some people out there that probably have it. And then, like, players and athletes that are taking pay cuts, and you have to think about it like this. They are, to the point of, sponsorships and deals and whatever and ads and all that. They are people with jobs, and yes, they do want to get back to their job, but being an athlete football, for instance, when people retire and people retire at a young age, people give them crap. But, at the same time, you got to think about, to Marshawn Lynch's stuff is you got to protect your mentals. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't, you can't keep playing the game and keep taking hits to the head and expect to be completely okay in your older age. You want to be there to eventually pick up your kids and play with your kids and run with your kids, have a normal life after sports, So to the athletes now, it's like, they are humans. Like this could mess up their entire internal system. Like their lungs could be destroyed, all of that stuff. They got to live a life too, after sports. Most people play on average 5 to 8 years of sports if they're lucky. Some people play up to 20, but most athletes don't last that long. And, you have to think about like your life after sports and everything. So like, this is a huge thing is like, we don't want to push them back, too quickly because again, they are people and they do have lives outside of sports. They're just like, you and me trying to just, granted, money is obviously a little bit higher, but
right.
But they're like you and me in the sense of like, after they're done with their job, they go home to their family and they take care of their family or do whatever they do with their kids and their wife or partners, whatever that may be, and it's just, I think that's the thing that people don't really think about because they seem superhuman and nothing can touch them. Like, rest in peace, Kobe, that guy was untouchable, and then when that happened, the entire world was in shock. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those things. They're not superhuman. They're human. They're mortals. It's one of those things. And we definitely don't want to rush it back because, if you really go back and study like pandemics or epidemics or anything that's, the sickness, go back to the Spanish flu, 1918, right? That started in 1918 and it wasn't over until 1920. It was like this killed 50 million people worldwide. Like 500 million people were affected by that.
Yeah.
And at that time, it's like, we talk about businesses reopening and all of that stuff, but like, some people, like I think there's a story like Philadelphia, like they tried to open too early and held a parade instead of social distancing. And then that like demolished the city of Philadelphia for the next like 6 to 9 months during that time because they chose to have a parade instead of actually practice social distancing and whatnot. So it's just crazy. Like I know people are getting cooped up and, have like a little bit of hay fever and all of that stuff being stuck inside, but you gotta take health seriously. Like we don't want this to be another Spanish flu where it lasts for 2 years. And, and at this point it might, but our science and our technologies are a little bit more,
advanced
today than they were back in the, 1918 and whatnot. So hopefully we're able to come up with some sort of vaccine, but that's the thing with viruses, man. They change. They evolve every year. That's why the flu shot is different every year because it keeps evolving,
Right.
So we just don't want anything to happen like the Spanish flu. Yeah. So it's just one of those things like, don't rush anything back.
There's so much unknown.
Yeah, it is. That's really what it comes down to. And like I said, I want sports back, but I don't want to risk other people's lives at the expense of my entertainment,
Right. Yeah. Well, thanks for that, Tyler. Thanks for that, guys. We're going to wrap it up now. I mean, what we learned so far is that ultimately we could be so passionate about sports. We ache, we crave for it to come back because it is, in one shape, one spectrum of another is a prevalent thing in our lives. It's the same way that we crave to go to the movie theaters to watch a new big blockbuster movie that comes out. I mean, sports inspires us. It makes us, happy. It makes us cry, in many different ways. But overall, especially in times of COVID-19, coronavirus, these quarantines, especially here in the US, it's unknown. We don't have enough vaccines or testing yet, as we all brought up, and even though we're not in the shoes of the athletes, we have to see it from both sides. They're humans too. As much as we want to, and even like owners, as much as they want to slap their employees and be like, no, you get back to work, I'm losing money. We gotta see it from all sides, that this is a collective thing. We're all in it together, no matter the wage scale, no matter no matter what our politics and our religion. So this is something that we are, especially us now, just looking forward to seeing what unfolds within the next few months in every part of our lives during these strange coronavirus time. So final thoughts, anybody? Anybody want to just throw out final thoughts? Nothing at all, huh? I think we got our point across. So I want to thank our two special guests again, Gerald and Jomar, for joining us on this episode 4 of sports in the COVID-19 times. So thank you guys, and thanks to listeners, and we will continue this series on to episode 5. See you then.
Thanks, guys. Have
Thank
a good
you.
day. Go Dogs.
Got it.
Thanks, guys.